Britain destroyed India through looting, expropriation and outright theft, all conducted in a spirit of deep racism and amoral cynicism. A blistering critique of our colonialist past by a man who was once one of the world's leading diplomats, Shashi Tharoor, now an Indian MP. He's just published his latest book on the iniquities of the British Empire, and its themes have echoes today. Shashi Tharoor is one of India's most outspoken politicians. He's an MP and has been both an ambassador and an Under-Secretary-General of the United Nations. In his latest book, Inglorious Empire, What the British Did to India, Tharoor argues that the British Empire was more about Britain than about India. The great symbols of empire in India, such as the country's rail system, were built for the benefit of the British rather than for Indian citizens. He argues too that colonialism in India was more akin to theft, often leading to death and destruction. In a post-Brexit world, the UK is looking to Commonwealth countries with whom we have had deep historic ties for future trading opportunities, India prime amongst them. Next week's inaugural meeting of Commonwealth trade ministers being held in London is testament to that. In any case, Tharoor judges that in trade talks, the UK will have to be open to discussing allowing more Indian immigrants in, both students and workers. Shashi Tharoor joins us now. Now, I mean, empire, does it mean anything to Indians anymore?
Not really, John. I think people have largely forgotten it, and Indians are very good at forgiving and forgetting, so they're forgotten as well, which is what I object to. Let them forgive, but let them not forget.
Well, of course, it still has some resonance here in that lots and lots of people wear lots of medals which have the word empire in them. Is that in any way offensive to you?
Oh, no. I think, that's part of your history. You're entitled to it.
So is it a British problem or an Indian problem?
No, I think it is a British problem, first of all, because there is so much historical amnesia about what the empire really entailed. The fact that you don't really teach colonial history in your schools. Children doing A-levels in history don't learn a line of colonial history. There's no real awareness of the atrocities, the fact that Britain financed its industrial revolution and its prosperity from the depredations of empire, the fact that Britain came to one of the richest countries in the world in the early 18th century and reduced it after 200 years of plunder to one of the poorest. But all of that is really not known anymore.
This is difficult stuff because we're just about to try and do a big deal with you. We need your trade. Are you going to hold this against us?
Not at all. I don't really think this is about today's relations, which are between two sovereign equal countries, John. I mean, our economy is as big as yours now. And as far as we're concerned, I think we don't need to have a chip on our shoulder when dealing with you. But I think we do need to be aware of history because, as I often say to young people, if you don't know where you've come from, how will you appreciate where you're going?
To what extent do you think India is even conscious of Brexit and its implications?
Oh, we're very conscious of it, and not least because a lot of Indian companies who established themselves in Britain, not just for the UK market, but because it gave them easy access to Europe while being in a comfortable English-speaking environment. So there's some real questions going on. Will they up sticks and move off to Ireland or somewhere instead? Some of these issues are very much there. Will there now be the possible free trade agreement with Britain?
Well, and what about immigration? Because Indians feel very strongly about that, not least the fact that Indian students have a real problem getting here to university.
And we've raised that issue, I believe, in our bilateral contacts for some time now. We're very concerned about conditions for Indian students, as well as the temporary work permits that many of them require after their studies to be able to gain some practical experience.
I think I see the kind of deal which would have to be struck, which would be presumably one which would talk about free movement of people to some extent.
Well, I mean, the real issue is exactly if you don't really want a lot of foreigners in this country, what exactly are you going to give India in return for selling your goods to the Indian market? I think you will need to accept that India's strengths are in providing services, in providing people, in providing expertise in areas like IT and software, which is amongst our strengths and where you can use all of this. But that does mean opening up to human beings coming in here, visas, students.
You're a realist. I mean, is a significant deal possible?
I think only if there's real give and take in a negotiation. It's just not going to happen automatically, and certainly not because of any nostalgia for empire, John.
Really? I mean, surely we have a special relationship, as Mr. Trump would put it.
If you keep losing to us at cricket, we probably will consider that a good special relationship worth maintaining. But no, jokes apart, I think there are obvious affinities which will continue and which are there, but they're not enough. Trade negotiations are hard-headed, realistic business propositions, and there will have to be some give.
And presumably not done overnight.
No, and that probably can't even start officially until the EU Brexit is done, which is still some time away, isn't it?
It certainly is. Well, Shashi Tharoor, thank you very much indeed for coming in to talk to us. The book sounds a pretty heavy read in the sense
Oh, no, it's light and impassioned. I promise you your readers will enjoy it.
Sounds positively blood-curdling. Thanks very much.